I've worked in coal mining for 30 years. I had my children and I was a single parent. And there's no job that I could do without a college education that paid me anywhere close to this. I raised my kids and gave them a good life. I have a couple years left and then I'll be done. I'm heading out to the coal mine to start my 12-hour day shift. Coal miners were seen as the heroes of energy production. And as the last administration, their priority became renewables. The entire public perception changed based on that. So we've seen a lot of ups and downs in Gillette, but nothing like the last year that we had. Everything was so up in the air for our entire community. Coal miners do a difficult and demanding job. We like what we do and we're proud of what we do. I don't think people understand what it looks like to be a Wyoming coal miner. Someone thousands of miles from here could flip their light switch on and have no idea it's because we work in the coal mines in Wyoming.
Most Americans do think coal still comes from Appalachia. They have that traditional idea of the underground coal miner with the dirty face and the pickaxe. But coal really hasn't been mined like that in almost 50 years, since the majority of coal's been coming out of modern mines. In Wyoming, mining is very different. There's far fewer people involved. It's far more mechanized. It's a different type of mining. It's actually open pit mining versus underground mining. Some people have called the Powder River Basin kind of a freak of nature.
The Powder River Basin produces 44% of all U.S. coal. It could well be the largest coal mining region in the world, actually.
There are 12 major mines in the Powder River Basin in Wyoming. Those top two, each of those mines produce more coal than the entire state of West Virginia.
Powder River Basin coal has two advantages over other coal-producing regions. There's low sulfur coal, so there's less cleanup required. And furthermore, the coal is close to the surface.
You know, there's old jokes that all you need to mine in the Powder River Basin is a 3-iron.
We're kind of the poster child for energy development because coal, of course, has always been there. We're here on the ranch south of Gillette, Wyoming, and in the Powder River Basin, which is kind of the mineral capital of the world, from what they tell me. We've been here, the family has, for almost 100 years, and hopefully we'll be here for a day or two longer. Well, Gillette started as just a kind of an end-of-the-tracks railroad town. Then it kind of promoted itself to a cow town. Then you had the railroad there, and the railroad needed coal. And that was the kind of the start of it. In a way, it's a company town. In a way, it's a boom town. Everybody knew that the coal was in the area, but they never imagined what it would come out to be.
Here at the Homestake Coal Deposit, the mining of coal goes on spring, summer, fall, and winter. Hundreds of tons of dirt are removed daily to expose the age-old bed of coal. There go thousands of tons of coal, one of nature's greatest servants harnessed for the use of man. Coal for light, power, and heat.
Energy has a huge role here in Gillette, and that's why we are called the energy capital of the nation. It is the predominant employer of our community. So we have oil, uranium, coal, natural gas, and a lot of other minerals.
The Clean Air Act that began in the late 1970s required existing power plants to control their emissions of sulfur dioxide, and Wyoming coal, being very low in sulfur, really made Wyoming coal very competitive.
The energy industry here has been just the focal point of this community for at least the last 30, 40 years.
I've lived in Gillette, Wyoming since October of 2000. Most of the people in this town are affected directly by coal.
You got Buckskin, Eagle Butte this way. You got Rawhide, Dry Fork, Wyandotte, and then you've got Bel Air, Caballo, Thunder, Narm, Antelope, Coal Creek, Cordero, Rojo, all to the south. A lot of mines in this little area.
What's that? Which one would you like? I might try a coal seam overload. Okay. And I think my daughter wanted some coffee too.
That is beautiful.
As a coal miner, I'm excited to dig into this. For Gillette, this is our mainstay cupcake. It's really good. Most of the jobs are based around coal. If you're not employed by a coal company, you know someone who is, or you're somehow tied to one of the mines. See you later.
All right, gentlemen, now the practice has come to a close. And with that being said, it is time to party.
People come down here to forget their everyday stress. They come down here to have a good time, except when they miss a few pins. But other than that, they just want to have a good time.
We're getting set up for our league tonight. It's the Cowboy Bowling League. Some of the league members have been on this league for probably 40 years or more.
Oh, come here, bud. We love you anyway. Come here.
Camo was definitely a color in Wyoming.
This league used to have a waiting list to get on it. It was full at 100 people.
Now we're down to 16 or 15 teams, and it's just dwindled because of the economy.
I actually took a year off of bowling. Honestly, couldn't really afford it. I spent 5.5 years at Black Thunder Coal Mine until the layoffs last year in April. I was part of a massive layoff in the Powder River Basin that was 520 some odd people in 24 hours.
And that's what I think was the blackest, darkest day of Gillette. And consequently, you know, all the other businesses that rely on the coal industry, they had to lay off.
We've lost all the bowlers due to the layoffs. We've lost 75 bowlers a week, so it's like closing your business one night a week but you still have all the expenses.
Bowling is a working man's sport, is what we like to say. And without these coal miners and having like a lot of their income, I mean, they're not going to be able to bowl anymore.
I saw guys, friends that got laid off, You know, it was tough. That was unheard of 10 years ago.
A lot of people that we had worked with for multiple years had gotten let go, and that affected a lot of people. The morale was really down.
Yeah, it was sad to see your friends go, but at the same time, you were thankful you still had your job, and it was a scary time because, I mean, you didn't know from one week to the next if you were going to keep your job. You know, and around here, coal's king.
Coal impacts the town because it impacts everybody. It builds a whole community. If you remove the source of that, you have nothing left.
We can't take our livelihood and what makes our economy livable. I mean, that's what drives our economy. That's what pays your taxes. That's what pays for our schools.
At our school, we cut a complete 5th grade class. We don't have jobs as educators without the students, and if families don't have a job at the coal mine or wherever they may be working that involves coal, they will move.
I do rental properties. I was getting 40 calls a day 3 years ago. I'm getting 1 call a day now.
When you see people leave your community because there's no jobs here, it makes you, it puts a heavy burden on your shoulders. It makes you feel like, what did we do to deserve this?
I don't know that I would see coal growing. I think we're going to find a new normal, and we're going to stabilize.
Yeah, I personally have a problem with the extremely high-paid upper management of all the companies. They seem to come out quite well.
What I love most about mining is the people I work with, and they're why I continue. Because of the kind of work we do, it's dangerous and it's demanding, and we have to take care of each other because our lives depend on it. So we become a family. I think we may have expected some layoffs, but not to that extent. It was a devastation that I had never seen anything like it. I'd never seen full-time employees laid off. I never expected it, and I've been doing this a long time. It was staggering to me. I was sad. I was sad for my friends, and I was sad for my coworkers.
It was heartbreaking to see families that we've grown up with, that we've known our whole lives, suddenly not know how they were going to pay their house payments. Excuse me. It was very difficult watching my sons-in-law lose their jobs and move my daughters and their families away. It was just an entire several months of just desperation. My brother, who had been at a mine for 27 years, was laid off. My nephew, who had only been there a short time, he was also laid off. My 2 sons-in-laws who worked in supporting industries were laid off, and also a nephew. And so we watched as they struggled trying to figure out, what their next move was. Was there anything else in Gillette that they were going to be able to do? I have 4 grandchildren, and 3 of them now live out of state. And that stinks as a grandmother.
And one of them is my daughter's best friend.
Yeah.
So that's a hard one.
It was devastating.
Like, don't talk about that, honestly.
Thanks for pulling that card right out.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks. If someone's got a hanky, that's sure.
And we get a lot of people from out of state and that see the Stay Strong Gillette signs. Those were one of the first things the community did to try to rally together, because Gillette is an extremely close-knit community.
I would say it was a perfect storm last year with low natural gas prices, low oil prices, and it was a warm winter and not that hot of a summer. So there wasn't much of a demand for coal, plus the price was low, and we had the Obama administration putting on more regulations on the industry. A lot of people who have worked in the mines all their lives, or even for a few years, felt they were being vilified by the administration.
So that was really difficult for us because we are still doing the same job. We're still shipping out the same coal, and we're still powering the same power plants. But it felt different, and it felt very personal. It was personal to all of us because it felt not only an attack on what is our livelihood, but on who we are and what we do.
When President Obama was in, it was really sketchy for people because they didn't know what was going to happen, because one of his platforms that he come in on was he was going to shut down coal.
And he was doing it.
All aspects. And that affected everybody, anywhere from the trains to the coal miners to the power plant operators.
Well, then you add Hillary to it.
And then Hillary
wanted to do it even worse.
To do the same.
I've lived in Gillette, Wyoming since October 2000. I currently work as a maintenance electrician at Bel Air Mine for Contura Coal West. When it comes to driving the equipment, some of the trucks are like driving a two-story house. But it's no different than when you were a kid in the sandbox with your little toy dump truck. You always wanted to drive one. You just didn't realize it was going to be that big of a scale. I actually have a daughter and a son. My daughter is 12, my son is 18.
Do you think they might get into coal mining?
I hope not.
So talk about that.
I hope they actually, what I do now, I hope I provide a better future for them so they can do exactly what they want to do. My life has changed from when I was in the oil field to when I became a coal miner. My life has improved dramatically. I've got things that I never had before when I was younger. My birthday present to myself was a $1,200 gun.
What kind?
It's a Beretta 92, but I sent it off to Wilson Combat. You want to see it? Yeah. This was my present to myself. It is a Beretta 92 A1. Without coal mining, I wouldn't have been able to purchase any of these. My daughter, I got her first hunting rifle last year on her birthday so she could come hunting with me last fall. And when she got her first deer, she was very proud. And I was a very proud dad. This will be the gun that I'm shooting on Saturday. It'll be Gillette's first IDPA match. And a lot of them are actually coal miners.
Well, thanks everybody for showing up here for our first International Defensive Pistol Shoot with us Razor City Action Shooters hosting the Rushmore Action Shooter guys.
Last year was probably the worst year since I've been working at the mine as far as morale being low. They've gone through lulls in the coal industry in the past, mostly because of market, but not because of an administration making their regulations, forcing their regulations. When he declared war on coal, it did feel like a personal attack.
Today we're here to announce America's Clean Power Plan, a plan 2 years in the making and the single most important step America has ever taken in the fight against global climate change.
President Obama tonight unveiling an aggressive new plan to cut greenhouse gas emissions. Tonight, some Republicans vowing to fight the president's proposed rules.
They'll claim this plan is a war on coal to scare up votes. Communities across America have been losing coal jobs for decades. I want to work with Congress to help them not to use them as a political football.
Regulation has definitely been a factor. It would be kind of a second-order factor. It certainly hasn't helped. So market competition has been the primary reason for recent coal production declines. Okay, and the reason for that is basically natural gas is much cheaper. The fracking boom really kind of came online in around 2008, and that's when you started seeing a lot of natural gas production. The natural gas market began to flood and prices began to plummet, and natural gas and coal compete with one another in the production of electricity, and that decline in natural gas prices displaced coal in electricity production. But there are other reasons as well. Renewable generation has really increased in the past few years, and that has also displaced coal production of electricity. The third thing is just the fact that the electricity market isn't growing. And so when a market isn't growing and you have more sources kind of coming into the market more cheaply, renewables and natural gas, then you end up with less room for coal.
Nice. Y'all put it on, right? Thank you, everybody. That is great. My hair look okay? Got a little spray. Give me a little spray. You're going to see. I get elected. You're going to see what happens. It's going to happen fast. And for those miners, get ready because you're going to be working your asses off, all right? Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody.
Wyoming was the highest percentage that voted for Trump.
When he started talking about just building back up the American economy and making sure that the American people had something to be proud of, that's what got me. Most of the Republicans here in Gillette, Wyoming, yes, they went for Trump. They supported him because they know coal is a lifeblood.
I have been a lifelong Democrat. I voted for Obama his first term, which made me unpopular at work. But I've been a lifelong Democrat, and this year I changed my party affiliation so that I could vote for Trump. For me personally, it was never anything Trump said. It was what his opponent said.
I'm the only candidate which has a policy about how to bring economic opportunity using clean, renewable energy as the key into coal country. Because we're going to put a lot of coal miners and coal companies out of business.
Whether it was taken out of context or not, when Hillary Clinton came out and said, we're going to put a lot of coal miners out of work, that felt very personal to us. We'd had enough of that. How can a president decide which businesses should survive and which ones should be put out of business? And we felt like we were on the losing end of that. And I wouldn't call myself a Trump supporter. I'm a supporter of Wyoming and our coal miners.
We went from a downtime last year where we had a president and a presidential candidate that said they're going to shut down coal mining, to having a candidate that says, hey, I'm here with you, I'm here for you, we're going to do something. No, whether that happens or not, what that did is that gave us that hope.
President Trump has delivered on a number of key promises that he made during the campaign and has stopped, the bleeding. It was pretty miserable to be in the coal industry under the Obama administration. So we've certainly noticed a difference with the Trump administration.
President Trump taking swift action to roll back much of President Obama's climate change policies. The president signing a sweeping order today, coal miners standing right beside him.
My administration is putting an end to the war on coal.
So far, the Trump administration hasn't been able to do a lot. They've been able to reverse some executive orders that the previous administration had made. It's much harder to affect market conditions with the stroke of a pen than it is to change executive orders. The election of the president really didn't change fundamental market conditions, although it might change people's expectations of the future a little bit.
Okay.
Russia tweeted today he has confidence everyone will come to their senses. Tonight, Mr. Trump has arrived in Mar-a-Lago for the Easter weekend.
Well, I think the people that work in the coal mines think that Trump is going to be the answer to their prayers. I think they think he's going to, bring back the jobs and it's going to be just like the heyday, but I don't think that's going to happen.
I probably should keep my mouth shut and keep out of trouble, but I think part of the reason that Mr. Trump was very popular in the Gillette area was that they've been praying to get the coal companies through bankruptcy. Then here comes somebody along that's had 4 bankruptcies and he's still crapping in his own gold toilet. I think that was part of the admiration that they had for him.
There are not very many Democrats in Campbell County. We are 2 of them.
We're just kind of the red-headed illegitimate whenever it comes along.
Red-headed illegitimate? Excuse me, but... Well, LJ was born and raised here and stuff, so I came out and the rest is history. We got married in 1969, so it's going to be 48 years this year. We had 4 kids, 2 girls, 2 boys.
I think that we've inadvertently had to sacrifice a number of things by living here in the coal zone.
I don't dislike coal miners. I dislike coal. There's a big distinction in my mind anyway. 1970s is when the big coal mines here started up. From that point onward, it has affected our grazing permits over there next to the coal mines. Also, the health of our cattle and calves. Hi, girls. You guys want goodies? Yes.
We've lost summer grazing over in the Thunder Basin country where the coal companies have discovered there's all kinds of good coal.
With the calves that we put over there, for many a year they would get sick, really sick. The vets that called dust pneumonia from breathing in all that dust and coal dust. And some years we lost a whole lot of calves. We just don't like to take moms and babies over there anymore because we have so much trouble with the calves.
The corral that we have over there is out of metal. The acid in the air has about eaten all of the paint off of the panel. I get to the point where you get frustrated with the damned coal mining. My grandparents planted the trees in here, and then before the mines or while there was more water, there was a lot of willows in here and rose bushes along the banks of the creek. Now that's gone. The big thing that the coal company has done is the mining has taken the water out of the creek. They've cut the aquifer that supplied the springs on the creek, and now the springs are all dry. The spring water is gone. Whenever it would flood in the spring, I've seen this creek here running a quarter of a mile wide in a place or two. In the dry time of year, you would still have water in the creek between the springs. And now that's just totally gone there. The water situation is probably the one thing that has made the biggest difference on us.
It feels horrible because without water, I mean, we exist on, water and grass. The cows drink the water, eat the grass, produce a calf for us, And without water, I mean, right now we've had to drill wells and pump wells because we can't depend on the water in the creek. I told you the pasture that our house is in, We couldn't use it at all last summer because there was no water in it, and we don't have a well in that pasture.
It's one of those things, there isn't anything that you can do about it. It's virtually everyone in the area is happy with the payrolls and the coal mines and everything else. And those of them that think don't like to think about the damages that are being done.
Wyomingites are very big outdoors people. We love our outdoors. We love hiking, hunting, fishing, and so we want to keep our land as pristine and clean as when, you know, our parents and grandparents were there. So when a coal mine comes here or an oil rig, we make sure they clean up after they leave.
Reclamation is the process by which land that has been mined is returned to a condition that is at least as good as, if not better than it was before.
We are actually very environmentally conscious. If you look at our reclamation plans that most of the mines here in the Powder River Basin have, we've actually gotten several awards because of the reclamation.
We live here. We want it to be clean. We want it to be put back the way that it was, and we do a very good job of doing that.
Well, and when you put it back to that, you get the wildlife that comes back, like elk, deer, bobcat, coyote, owls, duck, goose, all those.
We are stewards of our lands here, and we take pride in that. And when we're done mining, we put the land back and we hand it back to our farmers and our ranchers and the wildlife.
What do you think about that?
BS. How many antelope were there before the coal mine? That's the question. There's a few that have learned to accommodate the activity, but there's not the herds that there used to be. You'd go over there and you'd see several hundred antelope. There was just a pile of game in the area.
And now?
Well, they've got a few that they can point out and say, gee, see, we're easy to get along with. We have antelope. The fact that a coal mine can grow some grass on the old mine area, it's nice, there's no doubt about it, but it doesn't replace the water.
I'm going to jump in here because I am strongly, we need to get rid of them. We need to stop burning coal. We need to go to renewables. It's a very unpopular opinion around here, but I hate coal. I hate the smell of coal. I think it's bad for our environment. And yes, they're going to lose some jobs, but you know what? People need to see the writing on the wall. We don't have the conversations with our neighbors about climate change because we know that they will jump down our throats. A lot of people do not believe in climate change in this state. They think it's, what do they say, fake news or something, you know, and coal doesn't have anything to do with it and stuff.
Sometimes you want to cry and then you have to laugh to survive it.
My opinion on climate change, this isn't a fact yet. We haven't done the research and the tests and gathered all the data to prove that it's a fact.
Until the science is done better, I'm really skeptical on whether we're contributing to global warming.
I think that if there truly is, that there just needs to be better facts.
I've seen a lot of articles, have read a lot of articles about CO2 emissions, about stuff like that, and it seems like for every article I read that's a pro, I read another article that says, oh, that's bull.
Then what's bull?
CO2 emissions, that climate change, global warming, all of us.
Community that studies earth science, there are more than 99% of them are convinced that indeed it's human activity that's driving climate. I've been studying greenhouse gases and in particular CO2 for decades. We know that if we put more of these gases in the atmosphere, heat that would otherwise go to space will be absorbed and retained. This is very well established physics. So, first of all, we know that humans have increased the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. CO2 is currently higher than it has been in 800,000 years. This is known from CO2 measured in ice cores in Antarctica. Not only is it higher than it has been in 800,000 years by a significant amount, today's increase is actually 200 times faster than what was happening by natural causes. So it cannot be CO2 coming out of the oceans, it cannot be CO2 coming from volcanoes. So we are really doing something to the Earth. And that carries great risk because we depend on intact ecosystems to basically keep life livable. For a long time, coal has been the main contributor to the emissions of CO2. It contributes 42% of all CO2 emissions from the burning of coal, oil, and gas. It's not an issue of belief. It's just looking at evidence and making conclusions based on evidence.
There is going to be regulation of carbon in the future. There's no question of that. Therefore, today the only technology that we're aware of that would substantially address people's concerns about climate and CO2 is carbon capture.
So carbon capture is a means of removing CO2, the main greenhouse gas component that's created when you burn coal to create electricity.
Carbon capture is right at its smallest steps from the industrial aspect. Directly behind me is what is going to be an integrated test center. It will probably take the next 10 to 20 years to perfect such things.
So carbon capture, it's still speculative at this point how successful that can be. We have not really tested this at scale, and it will take maybe 20 years before we're really ready to do this. In the meantime, wind and solar will continue to get cheaper. So I don't know if in 20 years we may just say we should have just skipped coal and go to renewables right away.
Well, between the coal producers and the environmentalists, I'm sure there's a lot of animosity. There's a lot of frustration. Environmentalists are wanting to shut us down. Coal wants to keep producing, but wants to educate them, but they're not accepting the education. So yeah, there's a lot of frustration with that. It's just like anything. It's like dealing with a 3-year-old a lot of times. Kind of stubborn, set in their ways. I think everybody, both coal producers and the environmentalists, could do this. Talk to each other, sit down, take the time to learn before you set your judgment.
Do you think you'll ever leave this place?
Well, it depends. If the coal industry stays strong, then yeah, I'll probably stay here. If not, I may be forced to move to find work.
How do you feel about that?
I was hoping this was going to be it. So, not real happy if I have to, but you got to do what you got to do. As far as where I see myself going in the future, I'm hopefully going to stay right here with a job. But until then, I'm going to enjoy it while it lasts.
We can all coexist with renewables, and I think there's a place for coal, and I think there's a place for that in our country and, of course, in the state of Wyoming.
Coal miners are intelligent, hardworking, and employable and adaptable. We've gone through so much to get where we're at in the coal industry. I could see miners doing anything they want.
Hi, Rosie. Okay, love you. Bye. Yeah, if I don't call Kelsey within 10 minutes of getting home, she presumes I've been killed in a car accident on the way home.
So your daughter is always checking on you?
My daughter is forever checking on me. I wouldn't want my grandchildren to be miners. It's a hard life, and it's demanding, and it's hard on families. I missed a lot of things that my kids did because I worked night shifts. So I missed some school programs, and Kelsey helped me raise my son, who was 7 years younger. So it was a difficult life, and I would like them to have something that was less difficult and less demanding on their personal lives. I don't want them to have to work that hard. Today was good. It went by fairly quickly. I work at a job that I believe in. I work with people that I respect. So it's all worth it. Some days are easier than others, but for the most part, it's okay.